Say you're bored, sitting in your class, and in desperate need for a short entertainment break. So you go to Google and decide, you know what, nothing is more entertaining than drama. So you do what the smart thing is when looking for some melodrama, and you Google recent American legislation. So you find the usual stuff, President Trump said something he shouldn't have, and whatnot. Then something catches your eye. Politicians are screaming and yelling at each other over actual policy and not racist tweets. They are arguing about the Green New Deal.
So, what is the Green New Deal? It's perhaps one of the most ambitious pieces of climate change legislation put forth in American history. It's brought more attention to climate change in just 2 months than anything else has over the past few years. The Green New Deal was proposed by freshman U.S. Representative Alexandria Ocasio Cortez, a Democrat from New York. It is largely based around saving the environment and impeding the progress of climate change, although it has provisions for social change as well. Some of the major provisions include transitioning to entirely carbon neutral energy by 2050, a complete overhaul of all future and existing infrastructure to be environmentally friendly, and a carbon free nationwide transportation system. The deal guarantees all of those residing within the U.S. a wage capable of sustaining a family, paid vacation, free higher education, a universal basic income to even those unwilling to work, and subsidized health care, among access to a greener environment. In a way, the Green New Deal is like a democratic socialist's dream legislation. However, many politicians, even staunch Democrats, are against the Green New Deal. But why are so many of Ocasio Cortez's fellow Democrats so against the Green New Deal? Simply put, it would tank our economy and completely change American lives for the worse. Let's take a step back for a moment and dissect why.
First, and perhaps most importantly, the Green New Deal is way too expensive. Mark Thiessen, a Washington Post columnist, cited estimates that the Green New Deal would cost somewhere between 46 trillion and 81 trillion dollars. The math adds up when you think about the major provisions. Millions of buildings and homes in the country would have to be completely reshaped so that they're completely environmentally friendly. On top of that, the government would have to pay for free healthcare, free education, a universal basic income, and so much more. The total cost of all these things would easily add up to that estimate, which is more than the national debt and GDP of the United States combined. There would be a huge increase in unemployment due to the fact that the legislation calls for major US industries to be obsolete, which is a large human cost. Green New Deal proponents claim that it would create 15 million jobs for the economy. But major industries such as the oil industry and airline industry would become obsolete. The airline industry and oil industry together employ around 20 million people in the United States, meaning we'd lose over 5 million jobs after the Green New Deal's implementation. Democrats claim that the single payer healthcare system would save us $2.1 trillion in 10 years. Studies show that this is true, but we'd still have to pay 7.35 trillion per year up until that point, rendering the $2 trillion we'd save negligible. Supporters of the Green New Deal claim that these costs will be outweighed by the health benefits of reducing climate change. The idea here is that because climate change related effects such as higher temperatures are related to higher rates of asthma, then combating climate change is a matter of life and death. The idea has some merit, but it would be foolish to forget that there is also a connection between wealth and health. The richest communities in the world have the lowest mortality rates, but the taxes required to fund Ocasio Cortez's proposal would require so much wealth to be drained from even the poorest of American communities that they would become subject to what is known by economists as statistical murder, meaning that the consequences would take the form of lost lives. And how does Ocasio Cortez propose we pay for all this and manage to keep everyone at least somewhat wealthy? Well, she doesn't really know.
I don't care anymore. I don't care anymore. Because, again, I'm at least trying, and they're not.
In essence, her defense for how we're going to pay for the Green New Deal is that she's trying and that's enough for her.
On top of how expensive and financially irresponsible this kind of venture would be, the implementation and layout of the plan itself is weak, unrealistic, and gives no confidence to Green New Deal supporters' arguments. Environmental activist Jeremy Simon said the Green New Deal is, quote, not a legislative roadmap. A lot of work is needed, end quote. One of the main goals of the Green New Deal is a pathway to being carbon neutral by 2050. Even if these mandates were met, their effects would be negligible due to how little impact they would have on global pollution. If the GND was a global policy, then it would indeed be able to tackle climate change. However, climate change is a global issue, and the GND is an American policy. The US is far from the world's largest polluter, and even if our country reduces carbon emissions to $0, climate change would still occur. Consider the fact that the US is currently emitting historical low carbon emissions already. There are also hidden costs not addressed by Ocasio-Cortez. For example, our nation's military not only protects our homeland, protects freedoms across the globe. Our military relies on carbon-rich energy sources and nuclear power to function at the required efficiency because the Green New Deal does not propose any increase in atomic energy productions. It would harm our nation's defensive abilities by hemorrhaging their energy supply by eliminating carbon-rich energy sources. By now, it may seem like this legislation has a lot going on, but we're not even really getting past the tip of the iceberg.
Among all the massive economic policies, the Green New Deal has clashing social policies, which, when combined as they are in the proposal, take on new consequences than if proposed separately. The policy is more of a New Deal on steroids than it is a Green New Deal at heart. Other than the insanely ambitious carbon neutral goal, the environmental protection proposals made in Ocasio-Cortez's New Deal are already funded and performed well by the EPA. Curiously, the Green New Deal does not call for an increase in the EPA budget, but instead seems to retread the ground already covered by the agency. Paid family vacations, high-paying job guarantees, and eliminating income and wealth inequality have nothing to do with environmental protection, which is currently a more pressing issue due to the economy's currently healthy state. These social policies are also not even guaranteed for only U.S. citizens, but instead they apply to even illegal immigrants. One thing is certain, whatever economic policies are currently in place are working, and a complete overhaul of them would undo all of the recent major economic improvements. Environmental protection is possible and needed, but not when we are so distracted by bloated social policies.
There are far too many ways in which the Green New Deal would lead to disaster for the US. We cannot possibly go over all of them in detail in this video, but from what we have covered so far, it should seem obvious that Ocasio-Cortez's proposal is not the right fit for our current situation. Climate change is currently a serious issue, and we need to act in order to impede its progression. But the Green New Deal would not help to solve the problem of climate change, and could even make it worse. If we already struggle to protect the environment as is, imagine how futile our attempts would be with a soaring unemployment rate, free fall economy, no clear plan nor path to success, and an abandonment to our global responsibility as a world power. Think critically about not only the problems we face, but also the solutions being proposed. Do not just take our word for it, however. Listen to what the leader of Ocasio-Cortez's party says about the Green New Deal.
It will be one of several or maybe many suggestions that we receive. The Green Dream, or whatever they call it, nobody knows what it is, but they're for it, right?